Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. My name is Melissa Kampman, and I am a manager in Health Canada's Marketed Health Products Directorate. I'm very happy to be with you today to present an overview and update of the ICH M14 guideline that is currently under development on general principles on plan, design, and analysis of pharmacoepidemiological studies that utilize real-world data for safety assessment of medicines. As I'm sure most of you are well aware, epidemiology has long been a mainstay of post-marketing pharmacovigilance and safety evaluations. We as regulators have long recognized this utility and have written a number of guidelines and guidance to provide recommendations on the design, conduct, and submission of these studies for regulatory purposes. We also recognize that the availability of real-world data also continues to steadily increase worldwide, and that the role of real-world data in the therapeutic product lifecycle continues to evolve. That being said, there's currently no harmonized international approach here, and this may result in issues and inefficiencies for both sponsors and regulators. ICH has recognized that there are potential benefits to a harmonized guideline specific to the use of real-world data for the safety assessment of medicines, as it may result in decreased review effort, a decrease in the time until sufficient data is accumulated, or increase the likelihood of the transportability of studies and results across regulators. With that, I'd like to provide a brief overview of the efforts to harmonize the international guidelines into a single document, ICH M14. Please note that additional information on M14, including links to the concept paper, business plan, work plan, the group's rapporteur and regulatory chair, and a list of working group members are available on the ICH website. I'll first begin with some background and history. The proposal for a multidisciplinary guideline began with the development of an initial reflection paper on the need for harmonization. So this document focused on the technical requirements for studies, and it also outlined the benefits of developing a globally harmonized approach. It aimed to help facilitate use of real-world data in developing evidence for post-marketing safety regulatory work, and this document was endorsed by the ICH Assembly in June of 2019. To support this, a Pharmacoepidemiology Discussion Group was formed. So this group, referred to as PEpiDG, was established in September 2019 following endorsement of the reflection paper to support the advancement of harmonization of scientific and technical requirements related to pharmacoepidemiological studies. The efforts of this group identified and harmonized requirements for these studies based on the most current scientific evidence, and a concept paper outline was developed that was endorsed by the ICH Assembly in July of 2021. Through their work, PEpiDG conducted a gap analysis to determine areas addressed across the greatest number of guidelines submitted by the 7 parties listed on this slide. So you can see here that this includes both US FDA and also Health Canada. 39 initial guidelines were reviewed and refined to focus on unique guidelines while excluding those that were deemed out of scope. 24 guidelines were then categorized into 8 topics based on their contents and included areas such as general principles, methodology, protocol and report formats, and regulatory purpose. It should be noted that some of the output of this group has been relied on by ICH M14 to identify the major topical areas suitable to harmonization. The discussion group's final concept paper laid out some of the goals of the harmonization effort from their perspective. So this included to increase confidence for pharmacovigilance activities using real-world data, to accelerate accumulation of safety data, and to promote sharing of post-marketing safety information among different regulatory agencies, so to lead to better decision-making. Finally, ICH M14 was formed in April 2022, with the expert working group being formalized in May of that same year. So M14 consists of 22 international groups, so you can see them listed here on the slide, that are working together on a harmonized document to describe the general principles on the plan, design, and analysis of pharmacoepidemiological studies for safety assessment of drugs, biologics, and vaccines. So next I'll provide a high-level overview of the draft guideline itself. So please note, as I mentioned towards the beginning of my presentation, that if you want to access additional information, that our concept paper and business plan are also available on the ICH website. In terms of draft guideline development, so far, the expert working group has taken all of the documents submitted from all members, and building on the work of PEpiDG, we have looked across them for common topical areas. We then harmonized the content of each of those areas to develop our first draft of the guideline. This initial draft was then circulated for review by all participating members in June 2023, where we received a total of 615 comments and proposed edits. So these comments and edits have been reviewed by the group, including in some cases a smaller working group, as well as including during an informal face-to-face working group meeting that was held in August of last year in Halifax on the sidelines of the International Society of Pharmacoepidemiology's annual meeting. So at present, the working group is now working towards ICH parties' consensus and looking towards the formal public comment period. Now, the focus of the draft guideline is on post-approval non-interventional studies on the safety of drugs, vaccines, and other biologics, so studies with treatment assignment are excluded. However, it should be noted that the principles may be applicable to these studies when real-world data elements are included. The principles may also be applicable to studies conducted for purposes other than safety evaluation. So, for example, studies that are focused on drug utilization or effectiveness. Now, on this slide, you will find a snapshot here of the table of contents for the draft guideline as it currently stands. So, in addition to an overview of general principles, it includes a framework for generating adequate evidence using real-world data. There is a section on initial design and feasibility that focuses on formulating the research question or questions and assessing feasibility. This is followed by a section on protocol development that includes principles related to study design, data sources including appropriateness, data types, standardization, and data quality and collection, the target or study population, exposures, outcomes, and covariates, addressing bias and confounding, and validation. The data management section includes principles related to the data management plan, quality assurance, and quality control. And the analysis section focuses on the analytical strategy, including considerations related to primary analyses, missing data, and sensitivity analyses. This is then followed by sections focusing on reporting and submission to regulatory authorities, dissemination and communication related to the study, including of the protocols and statistical analysis plans, and principles related to study documentation and record retention. And then finally, in addition to reference lists, including lists of both regulatory and non-regulatory guidance referenced, we have included considerations for specific or special populations, such as a focus on pregnancy studies. So, as I look towards concluding my presentation, I'd just like to speak to the current status of the guideline as well as next steps. So, as I just mentioned, the ICH M14 parties are currently working towards consensus on the draft guideline, which is targeted for April of this year. Once consensus is reached, a 90-day public consultation period will be launched through the ICH website. And so instructions on how to comment will be posted on the website at that time. And I would really like to take this opportunity to encourage you to take a look at the draft when it is released and to provide us with your comments. We very much value your feedback on this draft guidance. Finally, in terms of next steps, on this slide, you will see an overview of each of the next steps as well as targeted dates. So I would like to note that our guideline establishment goal date is currently set for early 2025 with implementation targeted for May of 2025. And again, additional information will be available from ICH as we progress through the different ICH process steps. So to conclude my presentation, I would first off like to thank you for your time. I would also like to thank our M14 rapporteur, David Money from US FDA, for his great work in leading the working group and his input to this presentation, as well as input from working group member Catherine Coet from the European Medicines Agency on the presentation itself. Now, before we head to break, I would like to once again encourage you to submit your comments during the public consultation period, and again, reiterate that we very much value your input. So please stay tuned for a future announcement once the consultation period is launched. I would also be happy to answer any questions you may have during the questions and answer period at the end of all of the presentations. So thank you very much again, and please enjoy the break.